Alright boys, today we're going to be going over one of the most important things for day one, and we're going to be talking about my strategy for finishing collections in at least the first couple weeks of MLB The Show 22. Now, this is always really interesting in how you end up doing this. It's all based on stubs. So obviously last year, if I remember right, it was right around 2.8 million stubs around the first week to actually end up getting this done. Now, obviously nowadays in this time frame of MLB The Show, at the very end of MLB The Show 21, it was really easy to get stubs, and I'm going to be talking about kind of my stub methods and the things that I am going to be going after first, my strategy for finishing collections and getting a ton of stubs day 1 and day 7. You guys know I'm no money spent. I usually do not spend money on MLB The Show. It's one of those games you really don't have to, and so I don't really. So all of you guys at home, whether you spend money or not, if you spend money, you're probably gonna get it a little bit closer. But if you don't spend money, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to have this done in at least the first month of MLB The Show coming out. If you're no money spent, 2 weeks to 3 weeks is going to be what I am going to be grinding for and looking for. Now boys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys drop a like and a sub, as it helps me out an absolute ton, and let's get right into how I'm going to do it. First thing I'm going to say in this video is I am going to be going over a crash course on how to get stubs again whenever this ends up coming out. So whenever MLB The Show 22 comes out, I'm going to be going over my methods, but this is kind of my strategy and what I'm going to be doing for the new MLB The Show whenever it comes out. Look at the collections in this year's game. So obviously in the year I've got this done, everybody and their mom has this done. What I always start with is the cards that usually have the best divisions. So last year it was, I believe, AL East was really good because you got Goose Gossage. Now, it depends on what cards they obviously give this year, but big bullpen pieces at the beginning of the year, big cards that are really good. Goose Gossage was a dog for me for a very long time. I know he's a 6.4 ERA. I used him a long time, but whenever I did use him at the beginning of the game, this dude was lights out. He was insane. And so there's two different ways to go after this. Is whenever you start getting into MLB The Show 22, you either go for the really good collections first, and you got to keep in mind that these are kind of some of the harder teams. You got the Yankees and Jorge Posada here. The Blue Jays wasn't necessarily easy. Some of these cards weren't too bad. Lefty Grove was kind of interesting. The Red Sox weren't that good last year. They're probably going to be a little bit better this year with some of the guys they ended up picking up. But you can either go for some of those cards. I mean, even the AL Central had Bob Feller, which wasn't terrible. NL East, Tom Glavine was a big one. He was a big one. Really good pitcher for a long time. So if you end up going after these collections, obviously you can do that. But the way that I always do it every single year is I go for the biggest, baddest, hardest card first, which you guys know is going to be Mike Trout. Mike Trout at this point in the year, I believe, is going for like 50K, but usually at day 1, he's around 180 to 200,000 stubs. Now, the reason he is so cheap usually whenever he ends up coming out, that first week and second week, is because the stub market is always super low. Cards aren't super expensive and inflated like they are right now. So the big thing about doing this and going for some of these big cards is going to be going for Trout early is going to be a big play, because whenever you have to end up get Trout down the line, about a month into the game last year, he was about 200,000 stubs. Now, I don't know if it really shows it this well here in the marketplace because it doesn't go back that far, but this card used to be worth a ton of stubs, and height, I believe like 3 or 4 or 5 months into the game, Trout was going for about 500,000 stubs, and so I'm a big believer in you go after Trout early, that way you have him done. The other big guy every single year other than Trout is Jacob deGrom. Now, Jacob deGrom is going to be worth a lot of stubs on day 1. He's going to be the best pitcher in the game, hands down. He always has like a 102 outlier fastball with a 94-mile-an-hour slider. It's always absolutely disgusting. It doesn't matter what type of version you have of Jacob deGrom. He's going to be the best pitcher day 1, and he's going to be worth a lot of stubs. My ballpark for how expensive I think he's going to be day 1, and last year I believe he sat around 130 to 140,000 stubs. So that's about 300,000 stubs. Those two big guys are huge. But again, once you finish the Angels, I would go for guys like Ohtani. Now, I don't know how they're going to end up doing the overall. So Ohtani might be like an 87 again. And Ohtani is usually freaky good whenever you actually end up starting his live series. He'll be one of those cards that's pretty good because obviously he's a two-way. He hits bombs. But on top of that, He's actually a pretty good pitcher and kind of hard to hit. His splitter's gross. Fastball cutter's pretty good. Good speed differential. So he's usually a really good pitcher in the game. He'll probably end up going for like 70K day one. And so I would just go after these collections first. Now, if you want to go and get some of these easy guys and just finish these collections, you can see that last year it was 95 Frank Tanana. Now, usually the Yankees has a pretty good collection reward because of Trout and Ohtani being really high cards. Usually it makes the overall go higher. So go after Trout, go after some of these guys that are a little bit harder early, and you're going to be thanking yourself in the long run. I mean, you get these big cards. Usually the big like 5 for the beginning of the year are probably going to be Vladdy, Tatis, Jacob deGrom, Mike Trout, and I'd honestly say probably like Garrett Cole. Those guys are usually worth a lot at the beginning of the year, so go after the big guys first. You'll thank yourself later, and that's kind of what I'm going to go over for as far as the collection side of it. The other side of the game is going to be the marketplace. Now, I'm going to go over this a little bit. I'm going to make a stub video in about like 4 or 5 days. Probably like next Tuesday, I'll probably end up doing that. But the big way that you guys are going to be making stubs day one, obviously, these gaps are insane right now. You can see 29,000 to 7,500, but they aren't going to be even near this whenever it's day one, so I'm not even going to recommend this. But the one thing I am going to say is whenever it is day one, you go to the golds. You go to the golds. It's every year it's the golds because you're not going to have that much stubs. And you're going to be making about 300 to 400 to 500 stubs a pop. Now, I know what these gaps are non-existent right now. It's because we are in end game of MLB The Show 21. But this guide is still going to work for 22. And I might even redo it when 22 comes out. But the best way to actually end up going about this is 1,400 stubs. You'll end up putting a buy order for 1,000 and about probably around 1,100 stubs day one. I'm gonna say this is a reasonable offer where they would get 990. You're gonna end up just farming these and flipping this over and over again. Now I'm gonna make a dedicated stubs video where we go over flipping. If you've seen any of my stubs videos, you get how that does, but that's kind of gonna be my strategy for day one. The last thing I'm gonna say whenever you were going after collections, and I can't believe I forgot to say this already, is whenever you are going after these cards, like this is gonna be a really long video, but whenever you're going after all of these cards, the one thing I'm gonna say is for every single card, yes, every single card that you make in this, make sure, God, please guys, make sure that you put in sell orders. Do not just buy it for like 12,860. Let's say if there's a sell now order for Joe Ram for like 10,000 stubs. Be patient and put in buy orders for every one of these guys so you can get each card a little bit cheaper. By the end of it, I forgot who it was. I think it was Pitching Rebel last time who made this video and ended up talking about it. It ended up being like an extra 150,000 stubs for the way that we ended up going out about it by going through the buy now and buy orders instead of just buying out outright. Don't buy outright. Do this. And this is how I'm going to be attacking collections day one. Boys, we're going to get those collections fast. I am going to be streaming and grinding. I don't care that it's mid-baseball season. It's going to be an absolute grind to end up getting these cards. But I'm for it, and this is kind of my strategy and how I'm going to do it. And I wanted to kind of drop this video out a little bit early so you guys can kind of get a hint of what we'll be doing day one. I believe we are about a week away from MLB The Show 22 dropping out, so I'm going to continue this series of kind of tutorials going into MLB The Show 22, and then once MLB The Show 22, we'll be doing stub methods, ball player methods, fastest ways to get all these things done. But if you haven't already done it and you're made it to this end of the video, make sure you guys drop a like and a sub. It helps me out so much as creator. Thank you guys so much. Again, thanks for 6K. We just hit 6K subs, and peace.